Hey guys, Nancy Udell. Well, I went to the public meeting last night at Compass about this garage that will be built on K Street. There's no question they're going ahead with it. We don't have a vote on this, and it's going to be very expensive and not that many new net spaces. I'm just going to run through the facts. So they did not record the meeting, so this way people know what's going on. So, one thing I think it's kind of important to acknowledge is that the garage is a condition of the WMODA deal. Somehow the city has come up with a talking point that it's not connected to the WMODA deal. That is false. I think the city would be so much better off. It would just say, yes, it's a condition of the WMODA deal. He's building the museum. He said he has to have a garage in order to build the museum. And we said, yes, we're going to build this garage. Why can't they just be more straightforward? The cost of the garage was not discussed at all last night, except in response to a question, but suffice it to say it's a moving target. And the cost is one thing, and who's paying for it is another. And the bottom line is that we're paying for most of it, including we're getting a loan from Mr. Weiner, an interest-bearing loan for $3.5 million, and he was going to be putting $1 million in from his quote-unquote in lieu of fees, which is sort of a complicated thing that has to do with taking away spaces and not building enough spaces with the new construction for the uses. And it was supposed to be 1.65 million. Now it's down to $1 million because they gave him a break on it. And in any way, 750,000 of that million goes back to his construction company in soft costs. So we're mostly paying for it. This is the basics of where the existing free spaces are being eliminated. 63 at the museum building, and 64 at the K Street lot, which includes 7 spaces along K Street that are on the street adjacent to the lot, because those will go away because of fire lanes or something. I feel like this is a theme, but there's a lot we don't know about how the new spaces in the new garage will be allocated. We do know that 127 paid spaces are replacing 127 free spaces. Also, Weiner, in addition to building the museum, is building apartments, 110, and each of those apartments is only being given 1 parking space. And so the agreement with the city and the CRA says that they will give, quote unquote, or sell lease passes to the Weiner apartment people for their second cars. So we don't know how many of those that will be and how much that will take up. We do know that the city has guaranteed that there will be at least 50 spaces available for the public that won't be leased to anybody else. And when they say the public, that includes museum patrons. So how much will it cost us for each of the new spaces that are not already, that are replacing existing spaces and that are not going to be leased to somebody else? Well, it's hard to say because we really don't know. And we really don't know about these Weiner lease passes. And so here's some scenarios about how much the new spaces that are available to the public might cost each, depending on the current cost estimates of the garage, which is a moving target. Meanwhile, the Bohemian Garage. Back when, in 2020, when Mayor Pam, Amby Amoroso, and Scott Maxwell were on the commission, they somehow decided to get involved in this building the Bohemian and putting in city money, a total cost of, I think, $6.9 million, including our 35-year lease agreement for the first 2 floors of that garage, which we pay for annually, and it is empty. But the circuit parks there. I went over there the other day and drove around. It was literally empty. Nobody parks there. And it's just sitting there, completely unused. Except for, I don't know, there were like 6 cars in there. There's 120 spaces. And one of those spaces was their e-vehicle plug-in spaces. And one of those is being used by the circuit, which means that they could circuit people back and forth to that garage, which they could do even if the circuit didn't park there. So, as I said, this is definitely happening. I'm just hoping that in this last 10 yards, the city could find a way to maybe do a little bit better job negotiating on our behalf. For example, when they sell the lease passes to the Wiener apartment people, they can sell them for the Bohemian. And I think they should renegotiate Wiener's contribution to the garage. That loan should really be part of his contribution. I know he's building the museum, but he's getting, which is the whole cost, I think is 60 million. But he is getting his apartments, which will be a huge cash cow, and taking away a lot of free spaces. And he's also gotten a huge number of financial concessions and gifts from the city, including the land on which the museum is going to be built. He's given that for free, or I think he paid $10 for it. And there's all kinds of property tax concessions, which he's getting. And so I think it would be fair for him to at least give a little bit more toward the garage, which is a condition of his development of the museum. Finally, the CRA. Okay, the CRA just literally siphons off about 5 million a year in property taxes. They also collect money from the county. They siphon money that would go to the county or would go to the public schools, would go to the city coffers. And this CRA is kind of a new thing for me. I guess it's kind of a Florida thing, but they are basically an unelected shadow government taking large chunks of our tax dollars and doing whatever they want with them. And what most people, I think, don't understand is that after the CRA gets involved in building these things, which one of those things now is the Wiener Museum, the tax dollars, any tax dollars that come from those projects do not go to us, they go to the CRA, as do a lot of other tax dollars. So they should be putting in more into this project. They are awash in cash, our cash, and they should put more of it into this deal. Those are my thoughts on the garage that is so far down the road that I think the decision about building it has been made. I don't think it's fiscally responsible. And I think it's important that people sort of understand what is happening here. So that's my thoughts on the garage. Sayonara.